Story 1. The Man Who Waited After Midnight. I woke up on the office floor with the taste of blood in my mouth and a stranger's jacket draped over my chair. The lights above buzzed, one of them flickering, casting long shadows across the empty desks. My phone was gone. My laptop was open on the table, but the budget file I'd been working on was closed. Instead, a note sat on the keyboard in shaky handwriting. "You type too loud. Next time, be quieter." I blinked hard, trying to understand what was happening, when the glass wall by the hallway caught my eye. There he was again, the same man I'd seen earlier, the same man who shouldn't have been able to get inside, the same man now standing perfectly still, staring at me through the glass. I froze. My chair creaked. His head tilted slowly, as though he was listening for the sound, and then he raised his hand, showing me something. My missing phone. That's where this nightmare started. My name is Claire, and back in 2021, I worked as a financial analyst for a mid-sized company, the kind of place where deadlines mattered more than people, and overtime was normal. I didn't mind. I was single, lived alone, and work kept me busy. But one night in October, I made a mistake I'll never forget. I stayed too late. The office was on the 7th floor of a glass tower. After 8 p.m., you needed a badge for everything: the street door, the lobby, even the elevator. I liked that. It felt safe, like the building wrapped itself around me while I worked. That Saturday, I was the last one in. Everyone else had gone by dinner. I told myself I'd leave by 11. But you know how it goes. Just one more email, one more spreadsheet. By midnight, the whole floor was mine. Empty desks, motion lights clicking on as I walked past, the vac droning like a sleeping beast. At 12:17 a.m., my phone buzzed. Unknown number. I almost ignored it, but something made me swipe. "Hello," I said. Silence. Only breathing. Not heavy, just close. I frowned. Who is this? The line went dead. I shook it off, told myself it was a wrong number. But 2 minutes later, the phone rang again. Same number. This time, when I answered, the breathing had a faint rasp, like someone was dragging air through grit. "Stop calling," I snapped. My stomach twisted as I ended the call. That's when the text came through. Blue jacket, green mug, sticky note with 249. "Don't move." I froze. I was wearing my favorite blue jacket. My chip green mug sat by my mouse. And yes, my monitor had a sticky note with the numbers 249. Someone was watching me. I stood so fast my chair rolled back. My heart hammered as I looked out into the hallway. Nothing moved. Just glass and carpet and shadows. I checked the door. Locked. You needed a badge to get in, and mine hung from my neck. Still, I couldn't shake the heat on the back of my neck, the feeling of being watched. I told myself I needed a break. A cup of coffee, something to reset my head. I grabbed my mug and walked to the kitchen. The motion lights flicked on ahead of me, one by one, as if leading me there. Inside, I filled my mug, listening to the hiss of the machine. The small window above the sink showed only my reflection. Then I felt it, warmth on my neck. Someone too close. I turned. A man stood behind me. Dark hoodie, baseball cap. His face ordinary, too ordinary, like one you'd forget in seconds. His hands empty, but his eyes locked on my mug. "You need to leave," I stammered. My voice shook. He smiled, not with teeth, just with his eyes, like he knew something I didn't. I backed toward the counter, then bolted. His footsteps followed, heavy, steady. I yanked open the restroom door and slammed it shut, twisting the lock. My chest heaved as I pressed my back to the sink. The handle rattled once, then silence. I waited, counting. 50, 100, 200. My ears rang with every small sound. The drip of the faucet, the hiss of the vent, the thud of my pulse. When I finally cracked the door, the hall was empty. But when I returned to my desk, my phone buzzed again. A new text. "You run fast." That was the first event, the start of a long night. The second came an hour later. I had locked myself in a conference room, lights off, crouched under the table with my laptop. I figured if he didn't see me, he'd leave. At 1:43 a.m., the elevator dinged. My stomach flipped. I peeked through the frosted glass. A shadow moved across the hall. Tall, broad. He wasn't hurrying. The badge reader beeped at our door. Red. Wrong card. It beeped again. Red. Then he cupped his hands to the glass. His breath fogged it. I ducked lower, holding my breath, every muscle tight. After a minute, he walked away, but I didn't move. I don't know how long I sat like that, shaking. The third time was worse. Around 3 a.m., the copy awoke to life. Paper shuffled. He was inside. I had locked everything, but he had found a way. Maybe a stolen card, maybe a spare key. I grabbed a heavy stapler and crept into an inner office, locking the door. My hand shook as I texted the building security desk. No answer. Then the footsteps started. Slow, methodical, stopping at each door, testing the handles. Finally, he reached mine. The handle jiggled. Then metal scraped the lock. I pressed my back to the door, whispering, "Please hold." The lock clicked once, twice. I knew it wouldn't hold, so I slammed the emergency alarm bar. The siren blared through the office. I thought it would scare him off, but it didn't. The door opened an inch. His eye met mine. Calm, cold. And then, he pushed. That's when everything blurred. A struggle, a crash, pain blooming at my temple. Darkness. When I came to, hours later, paramedics were leaning over me. Security guards stood in the doorway. My boss was pale, his voice low as he told me something was missing. The server room had been hit. A drive gone. Master keys gone. I tried to explain the man, the calls, the texts. But when they checked my phone, it was gone. Only the note on my desk remained. The cameras turned to the ceiling. The copy room lens smeared. They told me it looked planned. That the intruder knew the building, knew the angles, knew me. And then came the question that chilled me most. Who knew you'd be here tonight? I thought of the emails I sent earlier. The message to my manager. The chat with my team. Too many people knew. It's been 2 years. I still work there, but never alone. Sometimes, when the vac comes late at night, I feel that warmth on the back of my neck again. And I remember his last text. "You typed too loud." Story 2. The Last Train. The man across from me smiled without moving his lips. His eyes were wide open, unblinking, and fixed directly on mine. The train car was nearly empty, the tunnel outside flashing by in streaks of shadow, but I swear his stare felt brighter than the flickering lights above us. Then he whispered something, too soft to catch, but I knew he wasn't speaking to me. He was speaking about me. My chest tightened. When the train slowed at the next station, the doors slid open. No one came in. No one left. But the man stayed there, smiling, whispering, and I realized we were the only two left in the car. And the train started moving again. My name's Kevin. I'm 27, and this happened just last winter in the city where I work. I'm not usually the kind of person who scares easily. I'm the one who stays calm when things get weird, the one who laughs off ghost stories. But that night changed the way I think about public places forever. It was a Thursday night, around 11:30 p.m. I'd stayed late at the office finishing a report, and by the time I left, the streets were quiet and cold. I chose the subway because it was cheaper than a cab and usually reliable, even late. Normally, I'd see a dozen people riding home with me. That night, though, the platform was nearly empty. When the train pulled in, I stepped into the second car. It looked deserted, but then I noticed him, sitting in the far corner. Dark jacket, gray pants, baseball cap low on his forehead. Just another late commuter, I thought. I sat a few rows away, pulled out my phone, and scrolled. A few minutes later, I glanced up. He was looking at me. Not just glancing, not the kind of quick eye contact you get on a train. He was staring, eyes locked. I looked away, pretending to type, but I could feel his gaze drilling into me. When I peeked again, that's when I noticed it. He wasn't blinking. Not once. Just holding that same wide-eyed stare. My stomach dropped. The first extreme moment came when the train stopped at Jefferson Station. The doors opened. I expected people to get on, maybe break this weird tension. But the platform was empty. The only sound was the hum of the lights. Then I realized he hadn't moved at all. Same seat, same stare. I thought about switching cars, but that would mean standing up, walking past him, putting myself closer. My body stayed frozen. The doors shut with a metallic slam. The train lurched forward, and then he leaned his head slightly to the side, like a curious dog. His mouth opened just enough for me to see teeth. Then he whispered something, too soft to hear. I said, "What?" before I even meant to. He didn't answer, just kept whispering. That's when it hit me. He wasn't talking to me. He was talking about me. His lips moved in the rhythm of sentences, but the sound was too low to make out. It was like listening to someone pray. By the next stop, my nerves were fraying. I was ready to leave the car and wait for the next train. But when the doors opened, I froze again, because no one came in. No one left. It was past midnight now. That was when the second wave hit. The lights flickered overhead. Just a quick stutter, but enough to throw his face into shadow and then light again. His smile was wider now, and that whispering, it stopped. Dead silence. Then, slowly, he stood up. I felt my throat tighten. He started walking toward me, one step at a time, hands hanging loose at his sides. No rush, no hesitation, just steady steps, like he knew I wasn't going anywhere. I shot up, heart hammering, and moved toward the connecting doors at the far end. I yanked the handle, but it wouldn't budge. Locked between cars. He was halfway down the aisle now, still smiling. I raised my voice. "Stay back, man." Nothing, just steady steps. The train hit a curve. The motion rocked us both. I grabbed the pole for balance. He didn't. He just kept walking, body swaying but never losing his stare. By the third stop, I thought about bolting onto the platform, even if it meant waiting for who knows how long. But when the doors opened, my heart sank. The entire station was dark. No lights, no people, just the echo of the train. I'd never seen a stop shut down like that. And that's when the third wave hit. The man stopped about 6 feet from me. He finally spoke, this time loud enough to hear. His voice was flat, calm, like reading from a script. "You shouldn't be here." I gripped the pole tighter. "What do you want?" His smile dropped. He tilted his head again. "They already know." My chest went cold. Before I could move, the lights flickered harder this time. On, off, on, off. Each flicker showed him in a different position. First by the aisle, then closer, then right at the seat in front of me. I staggered back, heart pounding, sure I was losing it. The lights stabilized. He was gone. The aisle was empty. I spun, looking down the car. Nothing. No sound except the train wheels. I backed into the corner, scanning every row, every shadow. My breathing was too loud in my own ears. Then my phone buzzed in my hand. A new text, from an unknown number. "Don't get off until the last stop." The train rattled on, stop after stop. Empty platforms. Dead silence. I didn't see him again, but every flicker of light made me jump. Every hum of the wheels sounded like footsteps. I wanted to scream just to hear another human voice. Finally, after what felt like forever, the train slowed to the last stop on the line. The lights outside were brighter, the station alive with workers in reflective vests, janitors sweeping. I stumbled out, legs shaking. I turned back once. Through the window, I saw him again, sitting in the same seat, staring straight ahead, lips moving in that same whisper. And as the doors slid shut, my phone buzzed one last time. "See you on the ride home." Story 3. The Night Shift. The sound of footsteps wasn't coming from the hallway. It was coming from inside the patient room I had just locked. I froze, hands still hovering over the clipboard, heart slamming against my ribs. I'd made the last bed check 15 minutes earlier. The room was empty, completely empty. Now, through the narrow glass panel in the door, I saw the faint shadow of someone moving. The steps were slow, deliberate, almost dragging. A figure passed just close enough for me to see a shoulder, the outline of a head. But no one was assigned to that room. My name is Julia. I was 32 when this happened, working as a nurse in a medium-sized hospital just outside the city. I'd been on plenty of night shifts before, long hours, empty corridors, the occasional patient who tried to wander. But nothing like this. It was a Saturday, one of those shifts where the whole floor seemed too quiet. Half the ward was under renovation, which meant several rooms were empty, including the one I'd just heard movement in. We were short-staffed, so it was just me and one other nurse, Carla, covering the entire wing. Around 2 a.m., Carla had gone to grab coffee, leaving me alone on rounds. That's when I noticed the door. Room 614. Empty. Lights off. But the little status monitor outside the door flickered once, like someone had pressed the call button inside. I frowned, checked my chart. That room had been cleared. No patients, no equipment, even. I walked over, tested the handle. Locked, like it should be. I started to turn away. Then I heard it. Footsteps. The first wave of terror hit me hard. My mind scrambled for explanations. Maybe maintenance had come in without logging it. Maybe a doctor was grabbing supplies. But then the figure passed by the glass. A man, I thought. Tall, shoulders squared, moving slow. No gown, no scrubs. Just a dark shape in the dim glow from the monitor. I tapped the door with my knuckle. Hello, this room is closed. Can you step out, please? The footsteps stopped. Dead quiet. I reached for my radio. Static. The battery light blinked red. Low power. Figures. I pulled my badge, swiped the reader, and slowly pushed the door open. The room was empty. The bed frame sat bare against the wall. The blinds were drawn. The faint smell of cleaning solution lingered. Nothing else. No one. I backed out fast, locking the door again, pulse racing. I told myself it was stress, maybe a trick of light. But deep down, I knew what I saw. The second wave came half an hour later. I was filling out charts of the nurse's station when the overhead lights flickered. Not unusual, old wiring. But then every patient monitor along the hall beeped at the same time. One long tone, in unison, then silence. I shot up from my chair. That doesn't happen. Not like that. I started walking the hall, checking doors. Patients were asleep, stable, nothing out of the ordinary. Then I noticed it. Room 614's door was unlocked. My throat tightened. I knew I had locked it. I double-checked, even tugged on the handle. The door was cracked open 2 inches. I whispered, "Carla," but she was still downstairs. I pushed the door open again. Same empty room. Except this time, the blinds weren't drawn anymore. They hung half open, letting in the orange glow from the parking lot lights outside. And on the window, faint but visible in the glass, were 3 words written with a fingertip. "Help me out." I stumbled back, slamming the door, fumbling with my badge to lock it again. My hands were shaking so badly I could barely swipe the reader. Carla came back a few minutes later, coffee in hand, and I told her everything. She laughed it off at first. Maybe housekeeping left it open. "No," I said. "I locked it. Twice." She frowned at how serious I looked. We walked back to room 614 together. She swiped her badge, opened the door wide. The blinds were drawn again. No writing on the glass. Just the bare bed, the smell of cleaner. "See," she said. "Empty." I wanted to argue, but what could I say? That the words had disappeared in 5 minutes. She told me to get some water and sit down. So I did. But I kept watching the hallway. The third and worst wave came just before 4 a.m. I was checking vitals when the overhead intercom crackled. A voice, faint and broken, came through. "Julia." I froze. It said my name. Room 614. The intercom went dead. My stomach dropped. I looked at Carla. "Did you hear that?" She nodded, face pale. "Yeah, but that line isn't even connected. That room's panel was cut when they shut it down." Before either of us could move, a sound rolled down the hall. Slow, steady footsteps. Both of us turned. At the far end of the wing, a figure was walking toward us. Tall, dark jacket, head slightly tilted, like it couldn't quite hold itself straight. The fluorescent lights buzzed overhead. Each one flickered as he passed beneath it. We both backed up behind the station desk, hearts racing. I grabbed the phone, dialed security. The line rang and rang. The man kept coming. Halfway down the hall, he stopped. Then he turned, and without a sound, slipped into room 614. We didn't breathe for a full minute. Finally, Carla whispered, "We need to leave." We edged down the opposite hallway, toward the elevators. The doors dinged open, and I nearly cried with relief. But when we stepped inside, the floor indicator lights above the doors flickered, and the elevator refused to move. The overhead speaker crackled again. "Julia." This time louder, clearer. I screamed and hit the button for the lobby over and over. Finally, the elevator groaned and started moving. The doors opened to the main floor. We ran straight to security. 3 guards searched the wing immediately. Nothing. Every door locked. Room 614 sealed. No footprints. No fingerprints. The official report said electrical malfunction. Stress-induced paranoia. But I know what I heard. I know what I saw. And I'll never forget the last thing. The next morning, I went back to collect my bag from the locker room. On the inside of my locker door, written in the same faint fingertip smears I'd seen on the window, were the same 3 words. Help me out. Story 4. The Last Carriage. The train door behind me slammed shut, even though no one had touched it. And then, as the engine rumbled forward, I realized with a chill that I was the only passenger left in the carriage. At least, I thought I was, until I saw the reflection in the window across from me. A man was sitting 3 rows back, perfectly still, his face hidden in shadow. The problem was, when I turned around, the seat was empty. My name's Daniel. I was 27 when this happened, commuting home from a late shift in the city. I've taken trains all my life, crowded in the morning, quieter at night. But never once did I think the scariest thing that would ever happen to me would unfold on a nearly empty ride home. It was just past midnight. I had missed the earlier train, so I ended up on the last one running out of Union Station. Most people got off after the first few stops, until it was just me and one older woman in the next carriage. I could see her through the glass doors, reading a paperback. I leaned against the window, scrolling my phone. That's when the lights above flickered. No big deal. Old trains, bad wiring. But then I felt the car shift, like it had decoupled slightly. The sound of the wheels on the track changed pitch. I glanced around, uneasy. The older woman's carriage was gone. Not literally gone, but when I looked through the glass doors, I saw nothing but darkness. No seats, no lights, no woman reading her book. Just black, like someone had painted over the world beyond my car. I stood up, heart racing. That's when the door behind me slammed shut. The first wave of fear hit me hard. I was alone. Completely. Or so I thought. That's when I noticed the reflection. The windows across from me showed the night racing past outside. But in the glass, I saw something that shouldn't have been there. A figure, 3 rows back. A man. He sat perfectly still, hands folded in his lap, head tilted slightly. But when I spun around to look directly at the seat, it was empty. I swallowed hard, sat back down, and tried to convince myself it was a trick of the glass, some strange angle of my own reflection. But then I saw it again, this time closer, 2 rows back. I stood and moved quickly down the aisle toward the front of the carriage. I pressed the intercom to reach the conductor. Static. No voice, no sound but crackle. The train swayed, rattling on the tracks. I grabbed a pole to steady myself. That's when I felt it, warm air, like a breath, against the back of my neck. I whipped around. Empty aisle. No one there. But when I turned back toward the window reflection, the man was standing now. Standing in the aisle. Just 1 row behind me. His face was blurred in the glass, features warped, like water running down paint. I bolted forward, slamming the next door release button. The panel beeped red. Locked. The second wave came harder. The lights flickered again, then cut out completely. For a full 5 seconds, I was in darkness, nothing but the roar of the tracks beneath me. When the lights snapped back on, the man was seated again, only this time, right across from me. Still blurred, still wrong. His head cocked too far to one side, like his neck couldn't hold the weight. His hands twitched slightly in his lap, fingers jerking like broken wires. I screamed, backing into the door. "Who the hell are you?" He didn't answer. He just sat there, watching me without eyes I could fully see. I slammed the door button again and again until it finally hissed open. I stumbled into the next carriage, only to find it empty too. Rows of seats, all vacant. No older woman. No one. The doors slammed behind me. By now, panic was full throttle. I sprinted through the carriages, one after the other. Empty. All of them. Each time I passed a window, the reflection followed. Sometimes seated, sometimes standing. Once, upside down, hanging from the ceiling in the glass while the seat itself sat vacant. No matter how far I ran, the reflection stayed just as close. I reached what should have been the front carriage. The conductor's cab. Salvation. The door was locked. I pounded on it, yelling. No response. Not even a shadow inside. I turned back, gasping for breath. The reflection wasn't in the window anymore. And then, In the silence, I heard it, the sound of footsteps behind me. Slow, deliberate, getting closer. The third wave broke me. I pressed my back to the conductor's door, eyes darting down the aisle. Nothing. But then the overhead speaker crackled to life. Daniel. My blood ran cold. It said my name. Daniel. Last stop. The train jolted violently, throwing me to the ground. My head smacked against the pole. Dazed, I looked up. Every single window now showed the man's face pressed against the glass, staring in. Dozens of them. Identical, smeared and warped but grinning. The train roared faster, the lights strobing, my ears ringing with the metallic howl of wheels on rails. And then, sudden silence. The train stopped. I staggered to my feet. The doors slid open. Outside was not a station, not even a track. It was a tunnel wall, dripping with water, lit by a single flickering bulb. The air smelled like rust and wet earth. I stepped forward, clutching the seatbacks for balance. Behind me, the doors hissed shut. I turned. Through the window, I saw the man for the first time. Not a reflection. He was inside the carriage now, seated calmly, staring at me with a face that finally came into focus. It was my face. Twisted, pale, eyes sunken deep like I'd drowned years ago. He smiled, raised a hand, and tapped on the glass from inside. Then the train roared to life without me. I stood in the dripping tunnel, clutching my chest, as the last carriage sped away into the dark, carrying the reflection that wasn't me. Story 5. The office that wouldn't empty out. The office printer came to life at 11:47 p.m. That was the first thing that went wrong. I was the only one left on my floor, finishing a report for a brutal deadline. Everyone else had gone home hours ago. The lights off, cubicles dark. But across the room, the printer tray slid open, and papers spilled out. I frowned, stood up, and walked over. The pages were blank. Dozens of them. As I gathered them, I noticed something faint on the very last sheet. Letters, blurred and shaky. 3 words. Go. Now. Please. My name is Aaron, and I work for a financial firm downtown when this happened. Long nights weren't unusual. The company thrived on hustle culture. Managers called it dedication. We called it slow burnout. That night, the office was silent except for the hum of vac and the occasional rattle of the ice machine down the hall. The view outside was endless city lights, glowing like embers. From the 19th floor, you feel untouchable, safe, until the printer warns you to leave. At first, I thought it was a prank. IT sometimes pushed test jobs through. I crumpled the papers and tossed them. But something about the shaky handwriting printed on that last sheet wouldn't leave me alone. I sat back down, typing, when the lights above flickered. The monitor on my desk froze, then blinked black, and in the reflection of the blank screen, I saw movement. Someone walked past the row of cubicles behind me. I twisted in my chair. Empty aisle. No footsteps. I shook it off, telling myself I was tired. Stress makes the brain twitch. Until I heard the elevator ding. The second wave hit me. It was nearly midnight. No one should be coming up. The cleaning staff worked earlier. Security never used our floor. I leaned out from my cubicle, staring down the hall of the elevators. The doors opened. Nothing came out, but I heard it, the distinct sound of heels clicking on tile, heading toward me. Tap, tap, tap. I ducked back into my cubicle, heart pounding. The steps grew louder, closer, then stopped just outside my row. I peeked. Empty carpet. No one there. But a chair 3 desks down slowly rolled back, squeaking against the floor, as if someone unseen had just taken a seat. I grabbed my bag, muttering, "Screw this," and headed for the exit. That's when the overhead intercom crackled to life. Static at first, then a voice, warped, metallic. "Aaron, stay." My blood turned to ice. It knew my name. I froze by the stairwell door. The speaker hissed again. "Don't look back." I looked anyway. Every monitor in the office had flickered on, glowing white. And on each screen, one word blinked in bold black letters. "Stay." The third wave slammed me. I burst through the stairwell door, sprinting down 2 flights before stopping to catch my breath. My footsteps echoed in the hollow space. But then I realized there was another echo. A second set of steps, just a half beat behind mine. I bolted faster, heart hammering. The steps behind me matched every move, speeding up, slowing down, always just one step off. On the 14th floor, I shoved the door open. The hallway lights flickered weakly, buzzing. I pushed through, aiming for the next elevator bank. That's when I noticed the floor plan didn't look right. There were no conference rooms, no break area, just a long, endless hallway of identical doors, every single one slightly open. I backed away, whispering, "No, no, no." From inside those rooms came sounds, phones ringing, printers running, keyboards clacking, like dozens of offices at once, though the building was nearly empty. A door closest to me creaked open wider. A monitor flickered inside, showing nothing but a white screen. And on the glass pane of the door, a reflection appeared. Not mine. A figure in a suit, face blurred, standing inches behind me. I spun around. Empty hallway. When I looked back at the glass, he was closer. I ran, slamming doors shut as I went, though the sounds inside never stopped. Phones kept ringing. Printers kept spitting. Finally, I reached the elevator. I punched the lobby button over and over. The doors closed. Relief. Until I saw the panel. The display wasn't counting down floors. It was counting up. But our building only had 20 floors. The car shook violently, lights flickering. When the doors opened, I stepped into a floor that shouldn't exist. Rows and rows of cubicles stretched out into darkness. Every desk had a monitor, and every monitor glowed with my name. Aaron. 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 The final wave hit. Chairs rolled back on their own. One by one, figures in suits stood up from the cubicles, all facing me. Their faces blurred, smeared like bad reflections, but their movement sharp. Wrong. They began to walk toward me, dozens of them, whispering in unison. Stay, stay, stay. I slammed the elevator button desperately. The doors wouldn't close. One of the figures broke into a run, jerking unnaturally fast, arms flailing. I dove back into the elevator, punching the panel. The door sealed shut just before it reached me, its blurred face smashing against the glass with a screech. The car dropped so fast my stomach lifted. The display blinked random numbers. -4, 99, 13. Then it landed with a violent jolt. When the doors opened, I was in the lobby. Bright. Normal. The security guard at the desk glanced up. "You all right?" he asked. I staggered out, sweating, clutching my bag like a lifeline. "Yes," I lied. "Just a long night." As I turned to leave, I glanced back at the elevators. All of their floor displays were frozen on the same number, -1. And for a second, in the polished marble floor, I saw it. A blurred reflection standing right behind me, smiling. Story 6. The patient in the wrong room. The heart monitor in room 412 started beeping at 2:03 a.m. That wouldn't have been unusual, except room 412 was supposed to be empty. I was doing a late shift in the hospital, paperwork spread across the nurse's station desk, when the sharp electronic beep 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 cut through the silence of the ward. I frowned, checked the chart. Room 412 had been vacant since yesterday. No scheduled admissions, no overflow patients. But the monitor inside that room was spiking wildly, like someone's pulse racing out of control. I picked up the phone, ready to call tech support. Then a voice came softly through the intercom attached to the bed. "Can someone please help me?" My name's Clara. I'd been a registered nurse for almost 5 years when this happened. I'd done my share of long nights, but nothing like this one. The 4th floor of St. Martin's Hospital was quiet after midnight. Most patients slept. The hall smelled faintly of antiseptic and old floor wax. Fluorescent lights buzzed overhead, casting everything in that unnatural pale glow that makes you feel more dead than alive. I had just finished checking vitals on my last patient when the monitor in 412 flared to life. I shouldn't have gone inside, but I did. The room was dark when I pushed the door open. The blinds were drawn, shadows long against the tile, and lying in the bed was a patient. A man, maybe late 40s, pale as paper, skin stretched thin over his bones. He was hooked to the monitor, wires taped across his chest. His eyes opened when I entered. "You heard me," he whispered. His lips were dry, cracked. I froze. "So, this room is supposed to be empty. How did you get here?" He shook his head slowly. Please, don't let them move me again. Before I could ask more, the monitor flatlined. A long, shrill tone filled the air. I grabbed the crash cart, hit the emergency code button. But when I turned back to the bed, the sheets were empty. The second wave hit. My co-workers rushed in seconds later, ready to respond. I stammered. There was a patient here. I swear. He was just. They looked at the untouched bed. Sheets crisp, corners still tucked. No sign anyone had lain there. The monitor was off. Not flatlining. Off. Clara, one of the senior nurses, sighed. You've been on too many doubles. Go get some water. I wanted to believe her. Stress, exhaustion, tricks of the mind. Until the intercom crackled again. This time every room on the floor lit up. Monitors beeping in unison. Heart rate spiking. Machines alarming. And through the noise, room 412's intercom whispered once more. They're moving me. Don't let them. By 3 a.m., the ward was chaos. Patients called out, frightened by alarms blaring from every direction. But when we checked rooms, their vitals were normal. Machines weren't hooked to them at all. It was only the displays, glowing, pulsing like they were alive. The charge nurse shut down every monitor on the floor. The alarms stopped instantly. We all stood in the silence, catching our breath. Then, from the far end of the hall, came the squeak of gurney wheels. I turned. An empty stretcher was rolling slowly toward us, pushed by no one. The third wave slammed me. The gurney passed each door like it knew where it was going. Its wheels screeched louder on the waxed floor, echoing. It stopped at room 412. The door swung open on its own. Every instinct screamed at me to stay back, but something pulled me closer. Inside the room, the man was back. Same patient, same hollow eyes, lying perfectly still on the bed. But this time, he wasn't looking at me. His gaze was fixed on the ceiling. I followed it, and saw a shadow moving across the tiles above us. Crawling, stretching long fingers toward the bed. The man grabbed my wrist suddenly, with surprising strength. They'll put me where no one can find me, he hissed. Don't let them. The lights flickered. When they steadied, his grip was gone. So was he. Only the dent in the mattress remained. I should have left. I should have walked out of the hospital right then. Instead, I pulled the patient records. There was a man assigned to 412 weeks ago. Name, David Klein. He'd been admitted after a car accident. Complications set in. He coded on the table. The chart said he died. But not here. Not officially. The notes ended abruptly. Transferred. Location unknown. No discharge signature. No release date. Like he'd been erased. By 4 a.m., the hospital felt colder. Too quiet. The other nurses avoided me, whispering that I was cracking under fatigue. I told myself they were right. I sat down at the station, rubbing my temples. That's when the overhead lights dimmed. Every hallway monitor lit up at once, and each screen showed the same thing. A live camera feed of room 412. Except in the feed, the bed wasn't empty. David Klein was sitting upright, staring directly into the lens. His mouth opened slowly. Clara. The final wave hit. I bolted for the elevators. The doors opened instantly, like they were waiting for me. I stepped in, jabbing the button for the lobby. The car descended 2 floors, then stopped. The door slid open on a level I didn't recognize. No signage, just a long, dim corridor lined with closed doors. Cold air poured in, smelling of rotten chemicals. And at the far end, a single gurney sat under a flickering light. Something under the sheet moved. Slowly, breathing. The elevator doors began to close. Relief surged through me, until a hand shot out from under the sheet and pressed the door open button. The gurney started rolling forward. I hit the lobby button again and again. The elevator doors finally sealed. The car lurched upward, faster than normal, shaking violently. When it opened, I was back on the 4th floor. The hallway stretched silent before me. Every door closed. Every light steady. I staggered to the nurse's station. My coworkers were gone. The intercom buzzed once more. Clara, the voice whispered. You let them move me. I spun around. Room 412's door was wide open. Inside, the bed was perfectly made. Crisp, tucked sheets. Empty. But when I looked closer, I saw something scratched deep into the metal frame. 4 words, gouged like they were carved with fingernails. You should have helped. I left the hospital that morning and never worked another night shift again. But sometimes, in the middle of my sleep, I still hear it. The faint squeak of gurney wheels rolling toward my door, and the whisper through the dark, "Don't let them move me again." Story 7. The Last Train to Nowhere. The train doors slid shut, sealing me inside. That was when I realized there was no one else in the carriage. Not unusual, I told myself. It was after midnight, the last line running out of the city. But as the train lurched forward, the silence pressed in harder than it should have. And then, a second later, I heard breathing behind me. I'd taken the red line for years, commuting late shifts. Normally, there'd be at least a handful of night workers, students, or drunks heading home. But that night, it was just me. Or so I thought. The breathing was steady, rasping. Too close. I turned quickly. The row behind me was empty. The entire car was empty. Still, the sound continued. Inhale, exhale, like something invisible sat just over my shoulder. I changed seats. The breathing followed. The first wave hit. I pushed through the connecting doors into the next carriage. This one wasn't empty. A man sat halfway down, facing the window. His clothes were dated, a heavy coat, old shoes polished to a dull shine. He didn't move when I entered. Didn't even glance at me. Grateful for company. I cleared my throat. Long night, huh? No response. I tried again. You headed all the way to Ashwood. His reflection in the window smiled, but his face never moved. The train rattled on. I gripped the pole, refusing to look again. Stations blurred past too quickly, just streaks of light. Something was wrong with the timing. This train was moving faster than it should. The PA system crackled. A monotone voice announced, "Next stop, terminal." My stomach tightened. There was no terminal on this line. I glanced back at the man. He was facing me now, his lips parted, breath wheezing. "You shouldn't be here," he said, voice like dry paper. Before I could react, the lights in the car cut out. The second wave slammed into me. Darkness swallowed everything. Only the rhythmic clatter of wheels filled the silence. When the lights flickered back on, the man was gone. So were the doors. Where the exits should have been was just smooth wall, metal seamless from floor to ceiling. Panic surged. I ran down the aisle, pounding where the doors should have been, but the walls were solid. Then I noticed the ads above the seats. They weren't normal posters anymore. Each one was a black and white photo of passengers, every seat filled, row after row, staring straight at the camera, blank-eyed, expressionless. And one of them was me. I stumbled backward, heart hammering. The lights flickered again. Now the seats weren't empty. Every row was filled with passengers. Men in suits, women in dresses, children holding toys, all from different decades, different eras. None of them moved. None of them blinked. They just stared straight ahead. The train's voice droned again. "Next stop, terminal." The speed increased. I felt the vibration under my shoes. Harder, louder, like the train was about to rip off the tracks. The passengers all spoke at once, voices layered and hollow. "You shouldn't be here." I ran. The only direction left was forward. I shoved through the connecting door. This one opened, and found myself in the driver's cab. Except it wasn't the cab. It was another passenger car. Rows of seats. Rows of still, silent people. I pushed through again. Same thing. Another car. Same passengers. Every door led to another identical carriage. Like the train was folding in on itself. And at the very back of each car, in the last row, sat the man in the heavy coat. Always facing the window. Always waiting. The third wave broke. I stopped running. My breath came in ragged gasps. My reflection in the window stayed back, pale, wide-eyed. Only this time, the reflection moved before I did. It lifted its hand, pressed it against the glass, and then it smiled. The glass cracked. Spiderwebs spread across the pane. The reflection's hand pushed through, shards falling silently onto the seat, and something cold and solid grabbed my wrist from the other side. I screamed and tore free. Blood streaked down my arm. The train shuddered violently, lights strobing faster than my eyes could adjust. For a split second, I saw the tracks outside. We weren't underground anymore. We were suspended in blackness. No city, no stars, no ground. Just endless void. The rails glowed faintly beneath us, stretching forever into the dark. And at the end of the line, barely visible, a station loomed. A single platform, lit by one flickering bulb. The sign above it read, "Terminal." The final wave came. The train screeched as it slowed, metal screaming like it was being torn apart. The passengers all turned their heads toward me in unison. Their mouths opened. No sound came out. The man in the heavy coat finally rose. His eyes were black pits. "This is your stop," he rasped. The doors hissed open. For the first time, they were there. Beyond them, the platform waited. Empty. Silent. I stayed frozen. The man stepped closer. "You don't get to ride forever." A hand pressed into my back. Not his. One of the passengers. Then another. Cold fingers gripped my arms, my shoulders, guiding me. I struggled, but there were too many. They shoved me toward the open doors. I fell onto the platform. The train doors slid shut, and the red line vanished into the void, leaving me behind. The platform stretched into darkness. No exits, no signs. Just concrete, stained with age. And then I heard it. The squeal of wheels on rails. Another train was coming. Its lights glowed faintly in the black, getting closer. When it stopped in front of me, the doors opened. Inside, every seat was filled by passengers who looked just like me. Story 8. The After-School Echoes. The classroom lights flickered once, then died. The whole building fell into silence. That was when I realized I was locked inside the school, and I wasn't the only one there. It happened last winter, when I was 17. I stayed late at school to finish a group project. Everyone else had left by 6, but I hung back in the library, determined to get everything typed up. The librarian left at 7, reminding me to lock up behind you. I nodded without really listening. When I finally finished, I glanced at my phone. 9:12 p.m. Way later than I thought. I packed my bag and hurried out, only to find the main doors chained shut from the inside. The night guard must have locked up, assuming the building was empty. No problem, I thought. I'd just use the side exit near the gym. But when I pushed that door, it didn't budge. Same with the back doors near the cafeteria. Every exit was locked. That's when the lights cut out. The first wave hit. The sudden darkness was suffocating. I pulled out my phone, using its glow to guide me. I told myself it was fine. I'd just find the guard. But the hallways felt wrong. The echoes of my own footsteps came back delayed, like someone was following a few beats behind. I stopped. The echo didn't. It kept walking toward me. I spun around, phone lights sweeping the hall. Empty. Still, the sound of footsteps retreated slowly, as if whoever it was didn't want to be caught. I ducked into the science wing, hoping to cut through to the office. That's when I heard it. A faint voice. Whispering. I froze, holding my phone up. The sound came from one of the classrooms. I pressed my ear to the door. The whisper grew clearer. A low chant, rhythmic, like dozens of voices overlapping. I pushed the door open. The room was empty, but every desk had a notebook laid out, each one open to the same page. Written across them, over and over, was a single sentence. "You shouldn't be here." The second wave slammed in. I bolted, heart hammering, desperate to reach the office. As I rounded the corner, the overhead lights sputtered back on. But they weren't right. They pulsed in time with the echoes of my footsteps. Bright when I stepped, dark when I didn't. And down the hall, by the trophy case, stood a figure. Tall, motionless, head tilted too far to the side. Its face was blurry, like my eyes couldn't focus on it. I turned away for half a second, and when I looked back, it was gone. But the glass case beside me was fogged, as though someone had just breathed on it. 4 words appeared, traced in condensation. Room 214. Now. Room 214. My classroom. Against all sense, I went. The hallway stretched longer than it should have, lockers repeating in endless patterns. My phone buzzed in my pocket. A notification. When I checked, it was a photo, taken just seconds ago, of me, standing exactly where I was. Only in the photo, someone else stood behind me. A shadow, long and thin, stretching across the lockers. I didn't look back. I just ran. The third wave crashed. When I reached 214, the door was already open. Inside, every desk was filled. Students sat silently, staring at the chalkboard. Their faces were pale, eyes sunken, clothes out of style, decades old. My own desk was empty, waiting. The teacher stood at the front, back turned, writing something on the board with deliberate strokes. Squeak, squeak, squeak. When she stopped, I saw the words. Detention, forever. Slowly, she turned. Her face was hollow, mouth stretched wide, eyes nothing but black pits. The students all turned toward me in unison. You're late, they whispered. I stumbled backward, slamming the door shut. The lights in the hall went red. A fire alarm screamed, but no sprinklers went off. No rushing footsteps. Just me. Alone. Or not alone. The echoing steps returned, closer this time, sprinting to match my own. I ran down the stairs, 2 at a time, toward the gym. At the bottom, I froze. The floor was covered in water, ankle deep, rippling, though nothing moved through it. My phone buzzed again. Another photo. This time it showed the gym, taken from above, me standing in the middle, even though I hadn't entered yet. The final wave broke. The water in the gym rippled harder. I forced myself forward, sloshing toward the fire exit. Halfway across, the bleachers groaned. One by one, shadowy figures emerged, climbing down. Their shapes were human, but stretched, limbs too long, heads tilting unnaturally. They moved slowly, circling me. I waded faster, splashing through, desperate for the door. And then the PA system crackled. A voice I knew. My own. Attention, Marcus. Please report to room 214. Your classmates are waiting. The figures stopped moving. Together, they raised their arms and pointed. Back the way I came. Back to 214. I didn't obey. I crashed through the fire exit, shoulder nearly breaking on the door. To my shock, it opened, and I spilled out onto the street. Bright lights. Cars. The city alive as if nothing had happened. Behind me, the school loomed dark and silent. I ran all the way home. The next morning, I convinced myself it was a hallucination. Stress. Exhaustion. A nightmare bleeding into waking life. Until I checked my phone. The photos were still there. Every single one. The last one taken at 3:14 a.m. A picture of me, asleep in my own bed. And just behind me, standing over my shoulder, the teacher.